Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, can I join with the Prime Minister and I'm sure all other members of this House in expressing our concern and our sympathy to the people of Christchurch and the people of the wider region of Canterbury for the trauma and the difficulties and the damage that has been done to their lives. I had the opportunity to move around Christchurch on Sunday talking to a number of the different communities, observing the damage done to their homes and hearing their stories. And what I'd like to do today, Mr Speaker, is to pay a tribute to the courage and the resilience that I saw from so many people across Christchurch. There were people there that we talked to that were worried about their neighbours, concerned about their well-being, not complaining about themselves, and concerned to help others wherever they could. I remember visiting an area that I'd never been to before in Christchurch called the Pines Beach, which is just out of Kaiapoi. And there was a whole street of houses that had slipped off their foundations, that had sunk into the ground, some of them sunk in as much as a metre, houses torn apart by the force of the earthquake. And there was a young couple there emptying out the possessions from their house that would most certainly be condemned and loading them onto the trailer. And I went across feeling really bad that they were facing this plight, and I expressed my concern for them. And they smiled and said, "Look, it's quite okay. We're really lucky that we live in this country where assistance will be available." Imagine what it would be like to be those people in Pakistan whose homes, whose livelihoods have been devastated and who face a future of famine and disease. And I was really impressed at this couple that weren't worried about the situation that they'd lost their home, they'd carpeted the room, their living room a week earlier, but were thinking about others. Mr Speaker, I was pleased again to see this morning that students are going out in work parties to help others in the neighbourhood, that people are out there concerned about their neighbours. And I think it makes you proud to be a New Zealander when you see that selflessness on the part of people who have already lost so much in terms of their own lives. I'd like to pay a tribute to Civil Defence and the emergency services. What I saw of their work was incredibly impressive. The fire service, the police service, all sorts of people out there doing their job, the contractors out, the people from the Lines Company, from Orion, reconnecting homes, working around the clock, those that were repairing the water mains, something like 400 or 500 breaks to the water mains, trying to get those essential services back to people as quickly as possible. I acknowledge the work of the Mayor and Civil Defence in that regard and their commitment. You might notice, Mr Speaker, that my Labor colleagues from Christchurch aren't in the House today, and that is because they are out in their neighbourhoods, in their constituencies, trying to offer the help that they can. Brendan and Philippa Burns lost their home. They can't go back to their home. But Brendan spent most of Sunday out with me around his own constituents, seeing what he could do to help. Leanne Dalzell, I spoke to on the phone today, she said she'd had her first hot shower in a number of days. I said, good, you can come back to caucus now. But she has been out there working around the areas of Bexley where whole areas with liquefaction, homes have been destroyed. Clayton Cosgrove can't get into his office in Rangiora because the area is fenced off because of the damage. But he's out there with his mobile office, business as usual, trying to get information to his constituents about the assistance that he can give them. And likewise, Ruth Dyson out there helping those areas of her constituency which have been badly damaged. Mr Speaker, it's important that we offer sympathy, but it's even more important that we offer the people of Christchurch and Canterbury all the help they need at this time. On the ground, I have to say the situation was worse than what I'd imagined from what I'd seen through the news media. Whole streets condemned in some cases, huge structural damage in others. People are uncertain about their future and about their livelihood. I went down Edgware Road in St Albans and spoke to a lady who was doing work on a home that had been badly damaged, and she pointed across the road, and across the road was her business that had been totally devastated. She has to worry not simply about getting her home back together, but what she does now when there is no income coming into her, but the bills keep coming in. And I hope, Prime Minister, that we can work with Peter Townsend and the Chamber of Commerce to provide that assistance for people who have lost their livelihood and lost their ability to pay wages to their workers. Surely if we can give a helping hand to investors, we can give a helping hand to people who have lost everything through no fault of their own. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this House will approach this crisis in a total spirit of cross-party support for the people of Christchurch. There is no room in this for party politics. That's why the opposition has offered today not to hold question time, because our combativeness across the floor is not appropriate at a time when we need to be showing unity towards helping the people of Christchurch. Mr. Speaker, I believe that all New Zealanders would support the strongest possible assistance to the people of Christchurch. All of us will feel that there, but for the grace of God, could have our own community gone. I think we need to err on the side of generosity. I think we need to provide people with certainty about their entitlements. People are stoical, but they're also tired, they're stressed, and they're often traumatised. Mr. Speaker, I offer on behalf of the Labour opposition our support for any necessary initiatives to help people in that situation. Could I finally say that we should be grateful that things are not worse than they are. If that quake had occurred not at 4:35 a.m. but 4:35 p.m, we would have seen scores of casualties and inevitably a large number of fatalities. Shops whose frontages had fallen onto the road would have crushed anybody trying to get out of those shops. The devastation would have been terrible. But another thing I think is also important, Mr. Speaker, and that is that we did have proper property standards, that we did have regulations, we did have building codes, so that in an earthquake the same size as Haiti, we have not lost people in the way that that sad country has lost those people. To all Cantabrians, I offer Labour's support, concern and commitment to help them through this adversity.
Dr. Kennedy.